how are we today? Welcome back into the greenhouse. If we haven't met already, I am Sam. I'm your plant collector in Melbourne, and today's video has been an impromptu video. It has all come about because I have had a plant purchase. I haven't really bought any plant for my own personal collection in a few months. I have kind of slowed down on the collecting part and more just focusing on getting things for the store and selling those. And it came as a impromptu buy. I didn't even know that I wanted/needed this plant. I have bought from the Instagram handle Day of the Dendrons, which is from Sydney, and I got it mailed ordered down here to Melbourne. And without further ado, this is the beautiful plant that has inspired me to do this video. It is a little Anthurium Wendlingerii seedling, and I honestly haven't really known much about this plant. The biggest thing for me is that I know that the inflorescence for this plant is so amazing. I'll put a photo up. It is normally the inflorescence is more like a spiral, which I find so interesting. But I figured out with a little bit of research and chatting to the individual that sold it to me is that this is an Australian clone that has a straight inflorescence. So it's not the normal one that is spirally, it is actually the straight form. Regardless, I am so wrapped that I managed to get one of these babies, because I'll put a photo up of the mama plant or Day of the Dendrons and his Wendlingerii, because it is just stunning. It has such long leaves. It looks really like wrinkly, or like, so I don't know, what would you call that? Like, I'll put the photo up and hopefully you know what I mean. But it just has so much dimension to the leaf. It looks super shiny. This one here is, again, very much a seedling, so it doesn't have the crazy like wrinkly appearance just yet. It is super flat, but regardless, she is a stunner. I am sure that you are all aware that I love anthuriums, and normally they would be the type that are more like the heart-shaped leaf. One that is on my logo, like a crystallinum, a clarinervium, a magnificum, all of those. And these anthuriums are a little bit different. They are called pendant anthuriums because of the way that they grow and the structure of the leaf. They are more like a belt, elongated and long. I think the best way to explain it is to show you a Anthurium vitarifolium. So this is one of my babies that I have had for a couple of months now. I'm going to say over 4 months. It could be in between 4 to 6 months. Ta-da! Isn't she magnificent? And all of these big leaves were not there. So in my care, these massive long ones had been there. But you can see that there are lots and lots of little pups in that vitarifolium. I think there's 1, 2, 3. I think there's like 3 or 4 in there. It was little. It's been a couple of months, and it honestly is one of the most satisfying plants to grow, because not only do they have the sheen like an anthurium, so it's very shiny, but the leaves itself are so thick. There's not a light veining. It's all kind of just one color. But regardless, this is such a underrated plant, and also for it being quite accessible here in Australia, that these guys don't really get that big of a rap. They pretty much self-pollinate themselves. So if you have one of these babies and it's old enough and it has flowers, you can use its own pollen to self-pollinate. It is honestly a super duper easy anthurium to look after and care for, and I don't particularly use any like high humidity, and it's giving us some really awesome leaves. My vision for this is that I want this to be massive, and I would also really love it to have kind of like the hook, the hanging hook, so that it can probably like hook up in the greenhouse. Currently it's on the shelves, and because it's so heavy at the very front, they normally like tip over. So I think this one really and truly needs to be hung up in its beautiful glory. I'm very keen to see what the flower looks like for this as well, but I can show you comparison. You can see just how big this baby is. Again, this one is very much a seedling. This one, big boy. So I have loved anthuriums for a couple of years now, and I never really gave much thought to belt or pendant anthuriums. It was only recently when I saw this seedling, I bought it, and I even did a little bit of research. I stumbled across Mick Minty on Instagram, but also his video on pendant anthuriums, and I thought to myself, oh, that's kind of perfect timing. I just bought the Wendlingerii, and then I watched that, and I just kept falling in love with these plants. And a lot of you will be like, Sam, they look the bloody same. When you have them next to each other, you can really start to see the characteristics, particularly I'm guessing in the flower. The growth is all very similar. The leaves kind of look similar, but in terms of like the texture and the color and the veins, they are slightly different. This is the last pendant anthurium that I personally have, but that does not mean that it is the end of the video. So I'll show you my last one, and then I will also put some species that I have come across, ones that I may wish to purchase in the future. There's any ones that I think that you will find interesting that look really cool, I'll put some photos up. I think that unless you see these in person, you may not see the real beauty behind this plant. It has appeared on my channel many times. I think this is the third time now that it is here, and it is the Anthurium Wendlingerii, I'm gonna say. I've got two of them here. I've got this one here, which is the single planted, and one that is triple planted. This gorgeous thing, I'm also going to get the Vitarifolium so that you can see the difference. So this one is definitely, the Vitarifolium has wider leaves, and they have more of like the normal Anthurium sheen to it. This one is definitely darker as well, but this one here, I'm gonna call it the Freddy. The Freddy is definitely thinner. It is lighter in color. The actual stems of these ones are super thin in comparison to this one. The leaves, again, super thick, quite thin, but also the true beauty of this plant is the feel of it. So soft, it is like leather, and I personally really love, not necessarily the look of the leaf, but definitely the texture and the feel. I'm very much a texture person. And I also have this triple planted one, which isn't looking too great, but this is my personal one, and it has been in a box for a very long time, and I haven't actually opened up that box in like a couple of months. So we've got a little bit of like, what do you even call that? That's a crispiness there, yellowing of leaves from overwatering, squishiness, it's kind of gross, but can you imagine once this one is big and lush and beautiful? I do find that these take a lot longer in terms of growth than the Vitarifolium, and it also is hard to get the leaves like even just this size here. I've seen a lot of them and they're always looking very immature or like very small leaved. I think the best way is to just do comparisons, right? So that one there, the shape is definitely different. This one's more like a Vitarifolium looking one. This one is more like a sword, like very thin, narrow. Even the way that the stem or the petiole goes into the leaf. If you ever are wondering how to tell the difference between like pendant anthuriums, I think for me, the biggest things are, yes, the leaf shapes all look very similar, but the actual like petioles are always a really good indication, and the very top of the leaf and how it connects to the stem. So some of them are going to be a lot more rounded. That one there is some kind of round, and this one here is more like the Freddy, that it's not very round at the top. It's more like a V shape. That's one way I've been trying to figure out all of the difference and all the characteristics between all these pendant anthuriums. But that is not all. I have a couple more that I would like to share with you, because if you are new to pendant anthuriums, then here is just a little taste of more to see what's kind of out there and what they look like. I'm getting up a photo of a Anthurium pallidiflorum. The top of where the petiole kind of inserts into the leaf, it is more rounded, as well as the texture is a lot more Anthurium-like. They are like glittery looking, they have so much dimension, more dimension than the Vitarifolium. Feel of it is definitely more velvety. Not only do I like velvety Anthuriums, but I love pendant ones, so this one here is definitely, excuse my dog, is definitely on the top of the list, that if it ever pops up at the right time in my life, I will probably wish to buy it. The more that I learn about pendant anthuriums, there are so many types of clones throughout the world. Even within countries, there are just so many variants and clones of pendant anthuriums. And it could be environment, it could be just like the different types of hybrids or different characteristics that these plants have made, but regardless, that kind of makes it fun for me. I think that's why I'm so into pendant anthuriums, is because that they have such variation. Now the next one has more photos, so I'm going to show you this photo. It has one of them on the left is a vitarifolium, and the one on the right is this pendants, and it looks like the vitarifolium is a lot more like glittery anthurium like. So I'm guessing that this one is more like the texture of the Freddy. The stems are so long, and then you've got like these really long belt-like leaves. Also, thing that I have to keep in mind is that on Instagram and even on photos on Google, that majority of the time they are mislabeled, or photos are taken and they're not necessarily the actual ID of the plant, because they do look really similar. And I have yet another one that is one stunning plant. It is called the Anthurium pseudospectabile. I particularly really love because of the veining. So these leaves aren't necessarily like super straight. They've got a little bit of structure to them. They're a little bit pillowy, and their veins look incredible. I just found Mick holding up one that looks super delicious and dark, but it also looks like it is in a very dark canopy, so that might be one of the reasons. It might be an environmental thing. But what I have been finding in terms of the care, any anthuriums, but particularly pendant anthuriums, is that they do really love when you put sphagnum moss on top of their media. I find that a lot of anthuriums like sphagnum moss a lot in general. For a lot of my time having anthuriums, I have always grown them in sphagnum moss. But now that it is very much a hot commodity at the moment, and it is very hard to get your hands on, I'm starting to use alternatives. So I've got lots of sphagnum moss, and I've continuously been reusing it. Now that I know that it's pretty hard to get your hands on, I've been transferring my anthuriums into MAB. So that's probably something that I'm considering of doing for these plants, particularly for the like smaller ones. Anything that is super well established, I think I might leave. For these guys, I will probably be moving them into MAB. Because I just got this a couple of days ago, I will probably keep this one in its soil for a little bit, and then once it kind of acclimatizes, then I might move it into MAB, just to not stress it out straight away because of the new environment. That is all my anthuriums. These are my beautiful pendants. Where are they? Come here. If I had to pick a favorite, I think that purely because I've had it for the longest amount of time, it is the vitarifolium. But then this Wendlingerii I am going to be obsessed with, and I hope that it grows big, beautiful, and long. I will definitely be keeping you updates on how this little guy is going, and also when I transfer it into MAB, I'll probably put it on my Instagram. That pretty much wraps up this week's video. Thank you so much for hanging out in the greenhouse with me. I hope that you have seen some anthuriums that you have never seen before. If you're a fan, or even if you're not a fan, leave your comments down below, because I would love to know. I am obsessing over them purely because when they are older and they are just so long and majestic in like nature, I'm just fascinated. When they're smaller, not so much, but they got to start somewhere. So I have gotten all these little bubbas, and hopefully that they will get huge and long and delightful. Which one was your favorite from today? And I'd really love to know why. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Mwah.